Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. One of the rightly guided caliphs, Umar, used to have someone at the mosque every day when he left the mosque say to him, "Remember, Umar, death is near." And this went on, and then Umar began to grow white hair. And he said to the man he had doing this, "You don't have to do it anymore. I now have a personal reminder every day that death is near as the white hair comes out." Man is in a dilemma. He's in a difficult situation. He is told that this world is an illusion by the wise ones, that what we see is not reality. But he also isn't able to see reality. So what's he left with? There was a man who went into a hammam, a bath in Turkey. It was a public hammam, and he got into a cubicle and fell asleep. As he was sleeping, he had a dream. His dream was that in the cubicle right next to him was a man who looked just like him. And it was obvious from the way this man was being treated that he was a very important man. And he looked at him and he saw the similarity between the two of them. They looked as if they could be twins. They were almost exactly alike. He looked closer and he saw that the man who looked just like him had died while he was lying in the Turkish bath. And it came to him, you know, I could change places with him. They would think that I passed and I could take over his life. He's obviously much better off than I am. So he moved the body into his cubicle when nobody was looking, and he lay down in that cubicle. And people came in and waited on him and were very respectful of him. And then he put on the other man's clothes to leave. And there was a car waiting for him to take him home. And he looked in his pocket and he had thousands of dollars in his pocket. And they delivered him to a very expensive home. And he walked into the house and there were servants everywhere and things were brought to him and reports were given to him. And he felt pretty good about all of this. And finally he walks upstairs and there's a beautiful woman who's his wife. And then all of a sudden he gets a slap across the face. And one of the attendants in the hammam woke him up. And he realized that everything he had seen in his dream was just a lie. It was all false. And the wise ones tell us that when the angel of death comes, we will also wake up and realize that everything that we've seen is all false, that it was truly all an illusion, and it has no meaning whatsoever. And so this is the place that most of humanity is at. They're within illusion. They're trying to understand the nature of illusion. They're told there's a reality outside of this illusion, but this reality is without form. You can't see this reality. And the wise ones tell us that what you can do, however, is you can have faith. And faith in the fact that there is a creator, faith in the fact that he is merciful, faith in the fact that he has gracious qualities, and faith in the fact that he created you to come to know him. Well, without faith, things become very difficult because progress in trying to understand reality becomes not possible, because without faith, there's no reason to think about it. There's no reason to be concerned about it. There's no reason to give it any thought. But for those who do give it thought, and for those who make it an important part of their life, Allah sends guidance. He sends guidance to those who wish to be guided. And he sends guidance to try to explain to them what reality is and how one comes into reality, how one finds out about reality. And prophets, holy ones, ketubs, have been sent into the world to explain to us the nature of reality and how to make contact with this reality. And what they've told us is that Islam is about absolute purity. So Islam is an absolute, and it's about knowing, understanding, imbibing, becoming, having possession of the qualities that are God. And these qualities are explained to us. We are told about them. We are told about their nature. We are told about what these qualities are and how they are brought into action. And we are told that heaven, or the concept of heaven, in truth, is the imbibing of these qualities, having these qualities within us as part of us. And the imbibing of these qualities is reality. Everything else other than that is an enemy to us. Everything other than knowing and becoming and being and bringing into action God's qualities in our life is an enemy to us. The essence of Islam is there is no enmity, there is no differences, and there is no differentiation. The enemies of Islam are anger, hastiness, hatred, murder, theft, animosity, fury, all the things that separate man from one to another. All the things that bring about differences are the enemies to Islam. Islam is universal. Islam means surrender. Surrender to what? Surrender to the qualities of Allah. Surrender to Allah's being. Surrender to that which is eternal, that which is truth, that which is not illusion. Allah created us, and in that creation, there were two parts. One part of that creation was the light part within us that came directly from our Lord, that was nurtured in our Lord. The second part of that creation is the shell that holds that light body, the physical elemental shell that we walk around in, that holds our soul light body. Most of humanity has become entranced by the physical shell. Since we are subject to our senses, and since this elemental form that we walk around in has the ability to have sensual pleasure and sensual awareness, we begin to believe that this physical form is real and is who we are. The makeup of this physical form are the elements. The elements have natural animosities towards each other. Water and fire are obviously not compatible. Earth is with situations that cause trauma, for instance, earthquakes and volcanoes. All of the elements are in a constant state of eruption and disruption, and they are within us and have formed a partnership for a specific period of time, and then that partnership dissipates, and with that, this body dissipates. But before this body dissipates, before we begin to dissolve literally, we must come to a point where we begin to understand that we have to make a transformation within ourselves. We have to bring about an end to everything that is not godlike within us, and we have to do this internally to ourselves. This is the great adventure, the great journey, the great pilgrimage of this life, to find out that which is and that which isn't godlike within us, and then detach from that which isn't godlike within us, so that we can make the trip towards purity, the trip towards finding reality. And in doing this, there is an absolute nature to it. And it becomes a difficulty because of the elemental arrogance that we have within us. This elemental arrogance comes from the fact that the elements have sensual perception. So they somehow believe they are real. So our elemental self believes in its reality and believes in its own eternity. It cannot imagine its own death. But if we truly look at the world, if we truly assess things without the arrogance of the eye, we can see that death is inevitable. And we know, or we should know, that we need to do something to bring about our escape from this inevitable elemental death, to bring us into the world of reality, which is eternal. The last prophet was Muhammad. And Muhammad was known as a physical being by the people of Mecca and the people of Medina the people of this world. But Muhammad was much more than that. He was also a developed light body within the physical body of Muhammad. There was this light body that was connected to reality. And the story of the mirage is the story of the transcendence of Muhammad from physical form to the light body form to connection with reality. Gabriel took Muhammad through the various layers and levels of the heavens and brought him to God. The mirage represents the time of coming out of the night, because it's called the night journey, into the light of wisdom, into the light of Allah. And Muhammad made this journey from physical form into the light body. And this journey needs to be made by each and every one of us. The mirage is an example for us of our own evolution into truth, our own evolution into purity, our own evolution into light. It is so integral into the basics of Islam that during the 5 times prayer, if you actually study the recitation, other than the recitation of the sections of the Quran, it is a recreation of what Muhammad went through in his journey towards God. We all have to understand that the nature of existence is that we either find out who we truly are, or we are subject to death and subject to judgment and subject to hell. We either come to the truth or we don't. And when the Rasul finally came before Allah, he asked Allah to remove the veils between them. And Allah said to him, there are 70,000 veils. I've removed all but one. If people were to see me without the veil, they wouldn't be able to comprehend it unless they'd entered into the light. He said, but now we'll remove that veil because of your request to remove that veil. And what Muhammad saw, peace and blessings be upon him at that time, was he saw a mirror that reflected himself. And he saw himself in that reflection. And then Allah explained to him, when you are here, I am not. And when you disappear and become absolute purity and have lost all sense of self, then I am the only one here. And then you are me and I am me, and there is just the one of us. Now, each of us needs to go through that process. We need to disappear into reality to become to know who we truly are. And that's why it is said if man knows himself, he will know his Lord. This is the great mystery within existence, the mystery of God, man, man, God, the mystery of God being in man and man being in God. You'll remember from the creation analysis that all of the rays that became souls that went into beings were held within Allah, and they were then sent out from Allah into creation and became the creation, but they originated within Allah. So that which came from Allah returns to Allah. And this is the transcendence and the enlightenment that man looks for. Now, when Muhammad walked the earth, most people could not see his light, but there were a group that did see his light, and they were called Sufis. And the true Sufis are the ones who had given up all of their attachments to the dunya, to the world. They had given up all of their attachments to everything other than Allah's light. And they could see the light, just as when we were with Bawa, sometimes we could see his light because he was here and not here simultaneously. And this involves being with the light, being in that state that is reality. We all need to get to that place when we can see the light, but there are barriers to being able to see that and to being able to understand that. The ones who reach that state are considered the 73rd tribe of man, the men that are not subject to judgment on the day of reckoning, the men who are not subject to Qiyamah, they're not subject to judgment because they've gone through that which one has to go through in order to be able to know reality. What is the judgment about? The judgment is about whether you have reached that state of purity. Have you kept within you the qualities that don't belong to God, or have you released from yourself the qualities that don't belong to God? God's qualities don't need to be judged because they are reality. So judgment is about seeing that which is not real within you. There's this bridge that has to be crossed in order to get to the light. And it's said that that bridge is thinner than a hair. It's as if a hair had been cut and sliced 7 times, and 1/7 became that bridge. Now, light can cross that bridge without a problem, but the elements can't cross that bridge because the elements tremble in the sight of light. The elements tremble in the sight of reality. The elements can't comprehend the effulgence that occurs in the sight of light. But if those qualities that come with the elements, animosity, hatred, lust, murder, theft, karma, maya, have dissipated, have disappeared, then the path is easy. the path is without difficulty in crossing. In truth, there is a unity among all existence. And in this unity is absolute purity. Without this unity, there cannot be absolute purity. And without absolute purity, there is judgment. Now, man is insan, that's one, but there's also the greater man, all of mankind insan, and we comprehend all of mankind as being unified with us? Can we comprehend all of mankind as being part of us? Or are we into separating all of mankind into sections and claiming I am the only one who is on the appropriate way, as if we are not all the creations of the same God? This larger understanding of insan is the understanding that Sufis have. This universal unity among all of creation is the understanding that the Sufis have. But what religions have done is they've taken this universal understanding of unity and, in a way, indicated that it's only available to certain people, either available by birth or available by conversions or available through some kind of adherence to a certain way. You will find in almost every religion, there is a proclamation that my way is the true way and my way is the only way. But the Sufi will say, anyone who surrenders to Allah's qualities and surrenders to the unity of creation and surrenders to Allah's way is one who has been saved. So it becomes our obligation to become part of that group which is accepting of all of humanity, part of that group which doesn't have any enmity, which doesn't have any differences, which doesn't have any differentiations, which is able to look at the essence of things and proclaim, at our essence, we are all the same. At our essence, we are all of the light. At our essence, we are light. And when does that light appear within us? When everything that is not of that essence disappears from us. As long as we hold on to that which is contrary to absolute purity, we will not become light. The light is already in us, but the light is hidden and encapsulated by that which is not pure. And as we become pure, that light body grows and grows and grows until it becomes more powerful than our elemental physical body. And when we begin to understand that, that is when we begin to understand the light form. Now, the interesting thing is, light is a little bit like air. We walk around in it. We couldn't see without it, yet we can't grasp it. We can't define it very well, and we certainly don't understand it very well. But we should understand that within this light, there is also consciousness. within this light, there are light beings. And we are, in essence, our essential self, a light being. And when we begin to understand that possibility, and we begin to believe in that reality, we begin to change. You know, when people become more kind, when people become more compassionate, it is said of them, they've become lighter. They have transformed. They've transformed into becoming more easy in this world, more light in this world. So we need, each of us, constantly to find the light within us. And we're told where that is. It comes at the point of purity. When we become pure, we become light. When we are stuck in differences, stuck in animosities, stuck in separations, stuck in I and mine, we cannot be light. Light has a unity to it that the elements don't have in the same way. For instance, imagine in light the fact that there is no elemental form. The form is entirely different. It's a light form. And for us who are in these elemental bodies with this elemental perception, we cannot perceive light forms. Yet, we can develop perception that can perceive light forms as we become less attached to that which isn't light. So somehow we have to come to the conclusion of the irrelevance of the dunya in our lives and the relevance of Allah in our lives. So our faith has to become strong. Our attachment to the nature of this world has to lessen and lessen, and our attachment to the nature of our Lord has to become stronger and stronger until we truly realize what La ilaha illallah who actually means. That nothing exists except reality. That nothing exists except the light. That nothing exists except God. And until we find that, we are doomed to spending our time in illusion and spending our time with petty trifles that keep us stuck in the lower parts of existence, that keep us stuck in time and space, that keep us stuck without the ability to transcend this world and to transcend into that which is true, that which is real. Now, when we spent time with the Kutub, we began to understand that there was a grace and a joy and a way to spend time in this world that was detached from the world. We didn't have to do worldly things to be joyous. We didn't have to do worldly things to understand and find meaning in our life. Being with the Ketub is being with that which is the connection between the earth and the truth, and is the gateway to the truth, and a manifest example of what the truth is like. So when we were with the Ketub, we understood that there were pleasures beyond estimation that had nothing to do with the pleasures that were given out in the world. It had nothing to do with the wealth of the world. It had nothing to do with the fame of the world. It had nothing to do with what the world had to offer. It was a different kind of joy. It was a different kind of understanding. It was a transcendent understanding. Sitting in front of the Ketub, sitting with him, being part of the resonance that came from him, gave us that feeling of transcendence and suspended our attachment to the world. It suspended our need to make our way in this world. It suspended our need to accumulate the world. It suspended our need to conquer the world. It showed us that there is something more important, higher, of greater purity, of more satisfaction, of more contentment, of more peace than anything we could find anywhere in the world. And this comes through faith, and this comes through Allah's intervention by sending to us those who explain to us the truth and allow us to feel that transcendent joy that comes only from God. Within every creation, God has placed a drop of his grace. And it is that drop of grace, that taste of our Lord, that gives us true satisfaction. We cannot get true satisfaction from the world. It isn't available. There's not enough of it. It isn't that endless cornucopia that God is. It isn't that endless source that can't be diminished that God is. It's a finite source that can only give small, petty pleasures that are attached to lust, enmity, hatred, murder, theft, jealousy, all of the qualities that come from Satan, all of the qualities that come from the accursed one, all of the qualities that are contrary to unity. So we can easily examine ourselves. Is our intention unity, or is our intention separation? Is our intention compassion towards all beings, or is our intention creating separate clubs who define their own holiness through worldly definitions? We have to look really closely at all of this. We have to take measure with ourselves. Where are we on this path? What is our intention? Where are we planning to go? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? And the answer to those questions should be, we're trying to accomplish understanding truth. We're trying to accomplish entering unity. We're trying to accomplish absolute purity in ourselves. And we've seen it. We've seen absolute purity in the Ketub. We've seen what that's like with our physical eyes. So Allah has given us the mercy of allowing our physical eyes to see beyond that which is physical. A translator of Bawa's was once sitting with him and said, all of these people come in here and they tell you about all these mystical experiences they have, and I don't have any mystical experiences. And Bawa looked at her and put his face right into hers and said, you know me, don't you? And that's what happened. We all had this mystical experience. And this mystical experience is the launching pad that can give us the courage to move towards the truth, the launching pad that can give us the courage to let go of this world and stop believing that it is what supports us. We saw that a little man sitting on a bed in Philadelphia could accomplish things throughout the world that we all thought was physically impossible within the realm of this world. We all saw him do things with each of our lives that we didn't think was possible within the realm of this world, yet we saw it and we knew it. So it's our obligation to spread this word, to let people know that there are beings sent from Allah to assist us in this journey towards Him, and it can be done. His big prayer for each of us was that we become like Him and that we fulfill the intention that we were created for, which is to come to know our Lord, to become light and rejoin the truth, to be back to where we originally came from. May that be what happens for each of us. May that path be open for us. May that path be easy for us. May that inclination be our inclination. May that way be our way. May the straight path be our path. And may Allah make it easy for each and every one of us. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.